The middle class is dying. Not slowly, not eventually. Right now. And the weapon killing it isn't unemployment or market crashes. It's debt. $18.6 trillion in total household debt. $1.23 trillion in credit cards alone, charging 22.83% interest. Over 2.2 million cars repossessed this year, headed toward 3 million by December, the highest number ever recorded in American history. Credit card delinquencies just hit 7.1%, matching the worst levels of the 2008 financial crisis. But here's the part that should terrify you. In 2008, people couldn't pay because they lost their jobs. Today, they have jobs, they're working full-time, and they still can't afford to live. This isn't a recession, it's something far more insidious, a slow-motion collapse where Americans are employed, productive, and completely broke. Where having a paycheck no longer means financial security. Where survival itself requires borrowing at interest rates that guarantee you'll never escape. 64% of people with credit card debt say it has forced them to delay life decisions, buying a home, starting a family, saving for retirement. 60% are carrying revolving balances, paying interest on groceries they bought 6 months ago, on gas they burned last summer, on medical bills that never stop coming. The American middle class isn't struggling to get ahead anymore. It's fighting just to stay afloat. And the current is winning. This is the debt crisis destroying middle-class America. And it's already too late to stop it. Let's be clear about what's actually happening. The Federal Reserve just released data 5 days ago that confirms what millions of Americans already know from their bank accounts. Household debt reached $18.6 trillion in the third quarter of 2025. That's not a typo. $18.6 trillion. Credit card balances alone crossed $1.23 trillion, the highest level ever recorded. But the raw number doesn't capture the brutality. It's the interest rates that turn debt into a death sentence. The average credit card APR now sits at 22.83%. Do the math. If you're carrying the average balance of $6,380 and making minimum payments, you'll spend over 15 years paying it off and fork over more than $8,000 in interest alone. You'll pay more in interest than the original debt. Auto loan delinquencies tell an even darker story. Over 2.2 million vehicles have been repossessed so far in 2025, and analysts predict that number will hit 3 million before the year ends. That's not just a record, it's a collapse. These are people who need cars to get to work, to earn the paychecks they're using, to service debt they can't escape. And when the car gets repossessed, the job disappears, the income vanishes, and the debt accelerates. Credit card delinquency rates have surged to 7.1%, matching the worst moments of the 2008 financial crisis. But this time, unemployment isn't spiking. The labor market is supposedly healthy. People have jobs, they're just not paid enough to survive. The gap between income and cost of living has become a chasm, as debt is the only bridge left, and that bridge is collapsing. This crisis didn't appear overnight. It was built systematically over decades, brick by brick, policy by policy, until the foundation of middle-class stability cracked completely. Go back to the 1980s. Real wages, adjusted for inflation, grew steadily for decades. A single income could support a family, buy a home, and still have money left for savings. That equation is dead. Since 2000, real wage growth has averaged barely 0.3% per year. Meanwhile, the cost of essentials has exploded. Housing costs are up 198% since 2000. Healthcare costs have risen 117%. College tuition has increased 180%. Groceries, energy, insurance, all climbing faster than paychecks can keep pace. The result is mathematical brutality. The median household income in America is $74,580. The median rent is now over $2,000 per month. That's 32% of gross income just for shelter, before taxes, before food, before anything else. Add a car payment averaging $738 per month, insurance at $150, groceries at $800, utilities at $300, and suddenly there's nothing left. No room for savings, no buffer for emergencies, just a tightrope stretched over financial ruin. And when something breaks, a medical bill, a car repair, a layoff, there's only one option: debt. Credit cards became the stopgap between survival and collapse. What started as a convenience turned into a necessity. Americans aren't racking up debt for luxuries. They're using it to cover rent, groceries, gas, the basic cost of existing. And the financial system knows this. That's why credit card companies can charge 22.83% interest, because they're not lending for wants. They're lending for needs. And when someone needs something to survive, they'll pay any rate. The trap was set decades ago, now it's sprung. And 60% of cardholders are caught inside it, paying interest on survival itself. While the middle class drowns, the top keeps rising. This isn't a recession hitting everyone equally, it's a K-shaped fracture where two Americas are splitting in opposite directions. The top 10% of households now control 89% of all stock market wealth. Their portfolios have surged 290% since 2010. Their homes have appreciated. Their incomes have compounded. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% own virtually no financial assets at all. They rent apartments they'll never afford to buy. They work jobs that haven't given real raises in 20 years. And they finance survival with credit cards charging rates that guarantee permanent debt. Corporate profit margins tell the same story. They've climbed to record highs, exceeding 12%, nearly double what they were in the 1990s. But those profits didn't come from innovation or productivity gains. They came from cost compression. From keeping wages low while charging more for everything. From turning the middle class into a profit extraction engine. Companies aren't investing in workers, they're extracting from them. Over $920 billion was spent on stock buybacks in 2023 alone. Money that could have gone to wages, to benefits, to the people actually generating the value. Instead, it went to shareholders, to the people who already have wealth. The system has bifurcated completely. If you own assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, the last decade has been extraordinary. If you rely on wages, on paychecks, on labor, the last decade has been a slow erosion. Your dollar buys less. Your rent costs more. Your savings vanish into debt service. And every month, the gap widens. This isn't economic inequality as an abstract concept. It's a lived reality where two groups of people inhabit the same country but experience completely different economies, one thriving, one suffocating. And the distance between them is now unbridgeable. Debt at this scale doesn't just sit quietly, it detonates. And the fuse is already burning. When millions of Americans can no longer service their obligations, the cascade begins. First come the delinquencies, credit card payments missed, auto loans defaulting, then repossessions accelerate. Cars vanish from driveways. Furniture gets reclaimed. The possessions people bought on credit to maintain the appearance of stability get stripped away. Then foreclosures rise. Families who stretched to afford mortgages at 7% interest rates suddenly can't make payments when one income disappears or an emergency drains what little savings existed. Banks don't absorb these losses silently. When default rates climb, lending standards tighten. Credit becomes harder to access. Interest rates on what remains available rise even higher. The people who need credit most get shut out entirely, and without access to credit, consumption collapses. Families stop buying, retailers lose revenue, companies cut costs, and the cost they cut first is always labor. Layoffs begin, unemployment rises, and every job lost creates another household that can't pay its debts. The cycle feeds itself. This is how consumer debt crises transform into economic collapses. It's not dramatic, it's methodical. Debt loads become unsustainable. Defaults spread, credit tightens, spending falls, businesses contract, jobs disappear. And suddenly the strong labor market everyone pointed to as evidence of stability becomes the next casualty. The signs are already visible. Delinquency rates matching 2008 levels, record repossessions, savings rates at historic lows. These aren't warning signals, they're confirmation that the process has already started. The consumer, the engine that powers 70% of the US economy, is breaking. And when the consumer breaks, everything built on top of it comes down. Not all at once, but inevitably. One missed payment, one default, one foreclosure at a time. This moment has happened before, not identically, but rhythmically. In the late 1920s, consumer credit exploded. Installment buying became normalized. Families financed automobiles, appliances, radios, anything to participate in the prosperity they saw around them. Debt-to-income ratios climbed steadily, savings rates fell, and everyone assumed the good times would continue indefinitely. Then 1929 arrived. The market crashed, credit dried up, defaults cascaded, and the consumer economy that seemed unstoppable collapsed in months. What followed wasn't just a market correction, it was the Great Depression. In 2008, the pattern repeated with different instruments. Subprime mortgages replaced installment credit, housing debt replaced consumer goods debt. But the mechanics were identical. Debt levels became unsustainable, defaults spread, credit froze, and the economy imploded. Unemployment surged to 10%, housing values fell 30%, retirement accounts evaporated. It took a decade to recover, and we learned nothing. Today we're running the same experiment with even more dangerous variables. Total household debt is higher than 2008 in nominal and real terms. Interest rates are higher, savings are lower. And unlike 2008, this isn't concentrated in one asset class, it's everywhere. Credit cards, auto loans, student debt, personal loans. The entire consumer base is over-leveraged simultaneously. When this breaks, there's no single sector to bail out. It's systemic. The middle class isn't just facing financial pressure, it's facing extinction. Not through dramatic collapse, but through slow compression. Each month, more income goes to debt service. Less goes to savings, to investment, to building any kind of future. The gap between survival and stability widens, and eventually there's no middle left. Just those who own assets and those who owe. The debt crisis destroying middle-class America isn't a future threat. It's a present reality. The delinquencies are here. The repossessions are here. The defaults are accelerating. What we're witnessing isn't the beginning of a crisis. It's the middle of one that's been building for decades. And the ending, that's already written. Debt at these levels, at these rates, with these income dynamics, doesn't resolve peacefully. It resets violently. The only question left isn't whether it happens. It's how much longer we pretend it won't.